It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. Ha, it's Feedback Friday. And if you hear banging around in the back room, there's the plumbers are here to finally fix the pump on my laundry tub. And if you're wondering what this is, yes, my I got a breakout on my nose and I scratched it. And so it's turned into this bullseye of death. So go me. But it is Feedback Friday. And it is a Feedback Friday. Where if you are on the Discord, we are starting up groups this Friday and Saturday. So if you're watching this and you want to check out the events on the Discord, please do. If you want to join the Discord, either participate on Twitch or in comments, befriend one of our ambassadors and get an invite, or you can join yourself by supporting this channel. Help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it, coffee.com/LeannaK, or support our men's network on GoFundMe. The invites go out around the 5th or 6th of every month, because that's when Patreon has an option to charge a card right away or charge it at the beginning of the month. And I did a poll of the patrons and I prefer beginning of the month. So these are the ways you can join. We do this to verify you are a real person. And it helps out the community as well. And this was a really cool week for comments. It was one of those put out in the world and you get back kind of weeks, which are always nice when I have 2 new clients this week. Really quite cool. So if you are looking, if you're thinking of signing up, I don't publicize the fact that I do text chats on Discord or possibly Telegram, as well as voice and video calls. So if you are interested in signing up for one-on-one sessions, link in the description box below. Happy to have you. Even if it's just for sort of a one-off of what can I do? Where can I look? Simple things like that. Artist consultation, help with projects, that kind of stuff. It's all over the map. Most of the people I work with are either coders or artists or writers. So yeah, I have a niche and I like my niche. So about the feedback. First, I normally don't say who made a comment, but a few Feedback Fridays ago, I anonymize the comments. I copy paste and read them so that there's no way I can actually identify someone. But in doing so, I put one of Aquila's comments in and I accidentally misgendered her. And we had a bit of a laugh about that. But this comment is from Aquila because she also made a response video to my Wellness Wednesday this week. So check that out if you're interested. It was quite moving. I felt very validated. But she said one thing that well, I'll start from the beginning. Thank you for giving some of my ideas additional weight. I don't think the trans community gets enough respect from the people who claim to be advocates for us. We're estimated to be 0.5% to 1% of the population, yet everyone else seems to know what's good for the trans community better than the trans community. One thing that advocates get very wrong, and I'll address this in another installment of what I wish trans activists knew, is that we are normal people touched by extraordinary circumstances who face unbelievable decisions and hardships simply to be happy. This is truly the disconnect between activists and the trans community, and even the youngest members of our community who think aggressive activism changes minds. The only way this gets better is by having those one-on-one encounters where outsiders can see us as regular people. Thank you for being an ally when it wasn't stylish. Thank you for being an ally when the going gets rough. I guarantee you the rank and file trans people see what you do and we know the truth. Have faith in your good works. And I don't have faith in my good works. I do have faith in people. And, you know, Aquila is one of the people I do have faith in. Yeah, I mean, this is how dialogue works, right? And the other thing I will say about trans people, because it's still Trans Awareness Week leading up to Trans Day of Remembrance, trans people are not just trans. They have other things going on, and I don't like activism that flattens a person's experience into what you're supposed to be or only being allowed to be one thing at a time. That's counterproductive. as far as I'm concerned. So check out Aquila's channel. She's great. Check out Bobby Calloway's channel, Better with Bob, our two women talking guests this week. Bobby's so fantastic. I can't say enough good things about him either. But this was a comment. There were a couple of comments in Wednesday, and then one thing from Two Women Talking. I normally don't comment on Two Women Talking, but this one, well, one person said, doing good isn't a beauty contest or profile brightener. It's selfless work that doesn't have a proper start or a forever end. That was in response to Wellness Wednesday, and that is a great line. That doesn't have a proper start or a forever end. That's beautiful. But somebody on Two Women Talking brought up Gambit as a reformed rake, and Gambit is one of my favorite X-Men characters. And I almost dropped the Marvels spoiler because it makes me have hope that they might be doing Gambit and the Thieves Guild and all that stuff. So I mean, full disclosure, I think that's where they should start. Or expand mutants in this MCU now, because it's a story that hasn't been told. You don't have to include any of the other X-Men unless you want to write Carol Danvers out of the MCU using Rogue, because Brie Larson may not want to do it anymore, and I wouldn't blame her. Yeah, that Gambit is one that, and this is why I always say, if you want to use a trope, use the trope, and don't care if people say, oh, that's a trope. Because Gambit's an example of someone who, the whole thing with him and Rogue is they can't touch, because she'll coma him. And so he doesn't just make a bunch of promises. He makes sacrifices to be with her, and he doesn't run off to do selfish, self-soothing behaviors because he doesn't get everything he wants. That's a story that actually is tragic and romantic, and it's it's an exception that proves the rule. I also get the sense that a lot of that stuff was a tactic, and Gambit also reforms before he and Rogue get together, and his past comes back to haunt him. And so that's good clarity there, because it's not that people can't change. It's that he changes, and then he's capable of an emotionally driven relationship. The relationship doesn't make him better. You bring all the best parts of yourself into a relationship. You bring all the worst parts of yourself into a relationship. A relationship cannot fix you. And you shouldn't be relying on another person to save you from yourself or fix your problems. Somebody can support you. They cannot fix you. And there's a big difference. And I mean, we could probably do a whole Two Women Talking about why romance in media is so toxic. Yeah, moving on. Somebody mentioned Gambit. I'm like, Gambit? I can talk about Gambit now. Freaking love Gambit. Love Gambit. When I was in, I think it was junior high, I used to fling playing cards around. Gambit's so cool. So cool. Everything about him's cool. Another person said, going on the superhero analogy, the whole die a hero or live long enough to become the villain quote got decontextualized and turned into a meme. In reality, most of us go through a villain phase and have to come out the other side. This is completely normal. And I was about to say, I am currently in the middle of my villain phase and loving it. But then I got this comment. I'm like, oh, maybe inaccurate. So I thank you. Your videos have helped me figure out what I'm doing wrong. All the bad advice I've received in my life is just that, bad advice. Most people were well-meaning and gave advice that may work with a neurotypical person, but not me. That's not their fault or mine. And the people who gave bad advice for fun are assholes. That's 100% on them and not me. I had no idea I was autistic before, but now that I do, I can navigate this mess I'm in much, much better. So no more feeling bad, no more thinking I'm dumb because I just don't get things right away. As you say, I have a different brain. Now that I know this, I can strategize better for myself instead of trying to be a neurotypical person. I feel like I have some control for the first time, and it's great. Thank you again for being one of the people who's given me good advice that works for me. No more being a victim. No more waiting for someone to save me. I always knew that I was different, but now I know how I'm different. I'm helping myself now. Thank you. That's 3 thanks by my count, so you can't say this work is thankless anymore. Zing. Love it. And that's the thing, right? Like, villain, I can't really say that. Taylor Swift's ruined anti-hero. So anyway, I'm just me. All right. So there were a lot of really good comments on Monday's video. Um, and one of the things I noticed is that some people, um, it really hit hard. And, I was getting comments like, I feel like I'm a one person drama triangle. And that person was kind of joking, but I still checked in with them privately because, well, it was an excuse to talk to them and I like talking to them, but also, just check in to make sure it's okay. Um, but, yeah, I liked this comment. Um, Gonna practice some radical honesty here. Listening to this stuff kind of stuff Listening to this kind of stuff sort of breaks my brain a little. This was about the drama triangle. Let me be clear, it's super useful, especially as a primary support to someone going through their own stuff. Not my story to tell, especially not so publicly. That being said, the way I analyze things makes me feel a lot like this stuff applies to my own situation and makes me feel like hiding in a hole and never coming out. Kind of feels like social, interpersonal, or mental health hypochondria if I had to describe it in some way. Part of me thinks it's probably just my own self-critic reaching out, twisting the world around me to give a reason to self-sabotage and destroy myself. The more analytical side of me thinks if something in here hit or resonated with me, maybe there's a grain of truth to something here being part of my experience. As always, I'll just sit, reflect, process, and use the tools as best I can. Thanks for the equipment and thoughts as always, Leanna. I love equipment. Instead of tools, equipment. I just like that. It's like your inventory. Oh, guys, I actually used a potion of hill giant strength in Baldur's Gate 3. I finally used one during a playthrough. Longtime viewers know what that's about. I was very proud of myself. I used a consumable. I have the opposite of FOMO. It's like, what if I need it? you know? But the thing about the drama triangle is it does apply to everybody. Sometimes it's a good way to check in. We all have those things where it's like, am I really helping? Am I pushing too hard? Am I being codependent? Am I making this about me when it's not about me? I had a lot of great moments with clients this week where, it was something like, I said, I want you to try something for me this week. And if it doesn't work, you'll be able to come back and tell me you were so wrong. So at least you have that. Because I do ask people to try some really vulnerable stuff. And I appreciate that. And I think that respect, even though it's sort of in a coma as a social concept right now, it's not dead. And there are those of us that still believe in it. And part of the thing about the intent of these videos is that people can sit and kind of process and try it on, see how it fits, and if I say something useful every so often, great. Somebody else said my last relationship was a slow motion disaster, but now I understand much more of why I thought I was helping. And somebody talked about, really bad relationships they've had. Really weird. I mean, the description, I won't read it all because it's personal and don't want to open anybody up to derision, but it was sort of somebody who ran hot and cold and was like, I want to set you up with one of my friends. Well, now I never want to see you again. And it's like, what? And yeah, it's things like that stay with you. And there's nothing wrong with you if years later an old memory bubbles up in your brain that you hadn't thought of in ages and you go, well, that was weird or something like that. Sometimes things have to lie down for a bit and then they reemerge when we're ready to deal with them. And that's the shitty part of trauma recovery is just when you're like, I'm doing real good right now. I'm feeling pretty solid and things are clicking along. And that's when your brain goes, great. Now here's this thing that's been festering in the deep, dark corners of your psyche. And you're doing good. So you get to deal with this now. Yay, progress, growth. And you're like, why? And that's what people like me are here for. We can say, look, yeah, the fun thing about recovering from trauma is doing good, feels lousy, but it's positive. Here's why it's positive. Keep at it, keep going. Um, yeah, it's community is important. Someone else said a good phrase to remember is don't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. Some people are just leeches and will drain you dry, at which point they move on, and you, having served as a safety net, ATM, etc., are left with nothing. I got tired sending a bit of money to such a person constantly and naturally never got paid back, so I told them, you have a year to wean yourself off my support. Sure enough, as we got closer to the deadline, nothing was done, and they'd expected I'd relent, even asked me to buy their son a Christmas present, otherwise I'd ruin it for them. WTF, never dated her, had any interest in her at all either, and a lot of drama with family to boot. Best to stay far, far away and not touch them at all. And there's been a lot of people I've been talking to lately who have these situations where they've been financially supporting someone who is just taking more and more and more advantage of it. And they, I mean, this commenter did it right, you know, cutting them off right away. One thing, going, look, you have a year to wean yourself off my financial support. That's more than generous. And if this person didn't take them seriously or didn't have a further conversation, that's not respectful behavior. And the that says a lot when someone is taking your money and not taking you seriously. And the guilt trips and all that stuff, they're masters at it. And it doesn't mean they're a bad person. That is that victim mentality that keeps them stuck and drags everybody down with them. And then they complain to the next, sucker that, and sucker's cruel, but not inaccurate. Harsh, I should say, not cruel, because cruelty is inaccurate. But, you know, they don't learn. They guilt trip people. That's not appreciating that they have help. And it's very, very important to take stock of the good things you have in your life. And if you got somebody helping you out that way, a lot of people don't. You can have other things that are not going great for you, but feel blessed in that way. Working with people who are in poverty, and poverty is a mindset. There are certain things that, having been financially upwardly mobile in my lifetime, a poor person, when they get money, they spend it right away. Because I have this bill to pay, or if this, they spend it right away, and they often spend it on stuff that feels frivolous or people can criticize, but it's a little bit of happy, it's a little dopamine hit. And I'm not saying everybody. It's just there's this thing about how poor people spend money. And it is different than how rich people spend money. Rich people, you have financial advisors who tell you, don't pay off your business credit card. That blew my freaking mind because it's not in your name And so it's better to just, I forget exactly what the justification was for it at that point, but I'm like, what do you mean don't pay off a credit card? Because they usually say, pay off the credit cards first, the highest interest. No, in that case, don't pay it off because it's business, not personal. Um, and you have financial advisors, you have people telling you how to move your money smart, and sometimes that means debt. And one of the things I had to get really used to is smart debt, because most rich people have loans. They have some sort of debt. They have multiple properties. They have mortgage on. They're maximizing the way their money's going. And that means not being afraid of debt. And that took some getting used to as somebody, my mother was terrified of credit cards. Uh, to the point that she didn't help me build credit when I was, a young adult, and actively discouraged me from getting credit cards in university. And so building credit was really difficult because they're like, why do you have nothing? Not her fault, you know, poor person's concept of money. Um, it is different. And some people do not have the money skills. They do not have the healthy relationship with money. And they have to save themselves from that. You can help them. You can offer them equipment. Equipment. I like equipment. Um, but you can't do it for them. And if you do, they'll never learn. Um, One of the things that, I go back to all the time is the concept of dignity of risk, that I'm here to teach people not just how to succeed, but that the people who care about you will not abandon you when you fail. And the only way to test that is to fail and find out, right? So, yeah, that's a tough lesson, and it's terrifying and it's scary. But as somebody who fails in public a lot, I'm living proof. You guys love me. So I'll leave it there. Yeah, be very, very clear-eyed about the fact that it is your money. When you're helping someone, you are helping them. It is not an obligation. It is not abandoning them if you decide you either can't afford it or frankly just don't want to anymore. Relationships are give and take. It doesn't matter how tough someone's circumstances are. I have situations where somebody will owe me money, and uh I'll ask them to do a consultation for somebody, and they'll ask how much the gig is worth. And my thought is, wow, I'm coming to you with this. I've bailed you out so many times. You can't do me a favor as a payback? Really? Okay, that's going in the memory bank. Stuff like that. So there's ways of reciprocating that aren't one to one. Everybody brings their own value to the table. Everybody brings their own thing that they can do. And a lot of the time, the thing that's in somebody's way more than anything is ego. And you will never win a battle against someone's ego. That's a good place to stop. All right, everybody. Thanks for the support. Thanks for the positivity. You guys are fantastic. Remember, Discord sessions starting up. If you want to join, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K, and buy a one-time Leanna Care session for somebody who can use it but can't afford it, coffee.com/Leanna K. Very, very important this time of year. And the men's group GoFundMe, also very important, right? All very, very important. All the importance. Thanks for watching, and have a great weekend.